It is statistically impossible that you don't know someone who is autistic. Right now, 1 in 36 kids are being diagnosed as autistic in the United States. And no, it's not because autism is just suddenly appearing out of nowhere or being overdiagnosed. Sorry! It's because more people, like medical professionals, are getting on board with how autism can look in both children and adults. But you know what's really crazy? This doesn't even count the people who are undiagnosed, like I was for over 40 years. So why do so many autistics still feel the need to mask or hide their autistic tendencies? Well, many of us are doing this on purpose. And today, I'm going to talk about why. The reasons are actually fascinating. So take a seat, because I'm about to blow your mind. What is autistic masking and why does it happen? Masking is the strategy used by some of us autistics to suppress the autistic stuff we want to do. Because we're trying not to look different. We're basically going incognito ninja style to blend in with non-autistic society. What's crazy is sometimes we do it without even realizing we're doing it. I masked for over 40 years without even knowing I was doing it. It's kind of insane when you think about it. I'm talking about things like changing the way I talk to fit in with social norms, like making eye contact or prolonging a conversation just because it seems nice. It can also mean not talking about what I really want to talk about. Design, baby! Because, apparently, it's not normal to only talk about one topic every day, all the time. Which still doesn't make sense to me. If you love it, why wouldn't you want to talk about it? Masking can also include suppressing things that my body wants to do to help me chill out, like rocking or hand flapping. Call me crazy, but I don't really like getting stared at in public very often. Or ever, actually. And that's the truth. Well, wait a minute, Chris. You don't need to mask. Just be yourself. Okay. But what happens when I don't want to answer a bunch of questions, or get stared at, as I said earlier, or be judged all the time? Whether you want to believe it or not, masking occurs because we have been conditioned to do it. We humans are social creatures, but autistics tend to socialize in our own unique ways, and honestly, pretty spectacular ways. But that's a topic for another conversation. I did a video on double empathy and one on how autistic adults go unnoticed, if you're interested. Of course you're interested. So I'll link them in the description below. But anyways, the problem with masking and expecting autistics to conform to non-autistic social standards comes in multiple parts. First, there's a huge psychological toll it takes on the autistic person. They're basically hiding their autism from the world all of the time, which means constantly hiding who they truly are. How would you feel if you had to hide your love for your favorite food and only eat it secretly behind closed doors and never ever get to tell anyone about it? Or if you had to hide your natural hair color all the time because most people thought that that hair color was weird, and because they thought it was weird, they looked at you funny, treated you differently, and never ever wanted to hang out with you. That's literally what happens all the time to autistics. Think about kids going to school. What's one of the key goals for why they're going there? Well, to socialize and to learn how to work with others. But how often do autistic kids get to work in the way that works best for them? Not very often. And then there's the sensory issues, and also not ever really understanding why they need to do things all day long that they don't want to do. Oh yeah, and they also get bullied, which sucks. But school is only temporary, and eventually they graduate and get to say goodbye to all of the suckiness. Yes! Finally! Except for the fact that after school, they usually have to join the workplace, and the entire cycle starts all over again. Son of a... And then imagine you don't even know you're autistic. This was my experience. I had adults telling me all through childhood, "Hey, look at me when I'm talking to you," even though it hurts my brain. "Look what you did. You made her cry." When I answered the question honestly. "You didn't do that the right way." When I solved a math problem in my head, but couldn't figure out how to explain it to my dim-witted teacher. Or the worst. "You have to do it this way, because this way is the right way." Even though there's a bunch of other ways I could get to the same answer in my own way. Okay. This is the main reason I got an education, because I loved learning, and teachers were supposed to inspire, connect with me, and make good and sure that my love for learning stayed hot and burned bright under their watch. But that honestly rarely happened for me. Luckily, there are a lot of educators out there who don't do this and do make adjustments to meet the needs of all of their kiddos, who are lucky enough to work with them. But this lack of awareness of what it means to be autistic is why masking continues and will always happen until more people understand what it means to be autistic and respect that. Gender differences in diagnosis. There's also more and more research starting to come out about the differences between how autism can look for males and females. And even though I'm here as proof that many boys and men have slipped between the cracks when it came to autism diagnosis over the years, it's also a fact that tons of women have too. In some cases, women are less likely to be diagnosed because of long-held perceptions of how autism looks. This makes sense because early understandings of autism were mostly based on how it looked for boys. And also in the grand scheme of things, remember that autism as a neurological difference wasn't even first discovered until the early 1900s. The idea that autism was linked to communication differences only came up in the late 1960s. Prior to that, only really serious cases were diagnosed that were often linked to schizophrenia. And then the current definition of autism was only published in 2013. So someone like me only got diagnosed now because it fits what I look like. Someone who struggles with many things, but also can appear to function in society otherwise, because I learned to hide my struggles and fit in. Now this is just my experience, and I'm sure many other late diagnosed or undiagnosed men have their own experience. But I'm sure glad I found out it's my autism that links to so many differences in how I view and interact with the world. For the ladies, it can be very different. Doctors might not notice many signs of autism because girls seem to learn very early how to fit in with others. The signs they show might not be the ones that have been documented so often. For example, walking on your toes seems to be a fairly common sign in girls. I've both observed this in students I work with, and also have heard this from some late diagnosed autistic women as something they did when they were young, before people told them to stop doing it all the time. Also, the focused or special interests of girls are also ones that many people don't seem to notice as much because they seem more socially accepted, like obsession with certain music groups or celebrities, or horses, or a certain topic that doesn't draw as much attention as the ones that some boys have. I know a first grade autistic boy whose special interest is U.S. World War II military tanks. This little dude knows absolutely everything about World War II military tanks. Anyway, autistic girls often mimic the behavior of other girls in order to fit in too, which can be true for boys, but is extremely common for girls. Autistic females also seem to be different in how they cope with change. Maybe not having so many outward meltdowns or outbursts as often as some autistic males, but still struggling internally. They're more likely to do things that aren't as visible, such as self-harming behaviors or developing restrictive eating habits. This is probably why a lot of female autistics are first misdiagnosed with many other things like OCD, bipolar, anxiety, eating disorders, when the behaviors might actually be directly linked to autism. Why this must change. Misdiagnosis, the efforts of masking, the gap between autistic and non-autistic communication, the increase in autism diagnosis, these are just a few of the reasons why autism is hidden from you. But it's also why it's so vital that more people better understand autism, especially medical professionals. Misdiagnosis happen too often and can cause some serious problems. A misdiagnosis can lead down a path of incorrect medications, misunderstandings for the autistic on themselves, and feelings like, I'll never fit in, I don't belong here, or even, I need to escape from this for good. It's not only that, it's the well-being and life expectancy of autistic people. And don't forget, if you're not autistic, chances are very likely that you already know or will know an autistic person and just not realize it. The diagnosis rates are continuing to climb. So, if you care about the people around you, listen up, because it is a mental health issue based on statistics and data. What does the data tell us? You're not going to believe it. Let me give you some examples. Autistic life expectancy. A 2023 study from the UK found that autistics don't live as long as non-autistics. Men live 6 years less and women 6.5 years less compared with non-autistic people of the same age group. Unemployment rates. For diagnosed autistics, an estimated 70 to 80% are unemployed, based on data in the last 5 years from the US, Canada, the UK, and Australia. Countries that all have protection in place against discrimination of certain groups, including autistics. This means the autistic unemployment rates are one of the highest in these countries for all people with disabilities, and also including a huge number of autistic people who actually say they want to work. Anxiety, depression, and risk of suicide. The numbers for anxiety and depression rates are much higher for autistics. A 2019 study found that autistic people are 4 times more likely to experience depression than those who aren't autistic. And about 40% of autistic adults and 8% of autistic children and adolescents have had depression. What's worse is there's also research showing that suicide attempts are much higher in autistic individuals than in the general population, particularly among late diagnosed autistics. And what's the scariest part of these statistics? A 2024 study done with therapists and medical professionals who work with autistics showed that many couldn't even tell that their patient was struggling or the extent to which they were struggling until it was too late. Do you know what that means? The very people who are tasked with helping us when we are sick or when we are struggling with our mental health can't even tell what's going on for many of their autistic patients. They can't intervene, or they might downplay what's happening. This leaves the person completely hopeless of their symptoms untreated and possibly leading to even more health issues. And it's directly connected to differences in how autistic people display their symptoms and explain their feelings, which is exactly what we've been talking all about here. The understandings of autistic people need to change so they can get the support that all people need from the people around them, healthcare providers, and the world in general. What can we do? Like it or not, autistic masking will continue until the social and cultural stigmas around neurological differences in mental health in general changes. So this is something we all need to work on, everywhere. If we are more accepting and understanding as a society, then less autistic people will feel the pressure to conform and change the way they are just to fit in. We need better education and understanding of autism and the vast range of ways to socialize and communicate that should be acceptable. It also starts with shifts in how we talk about autism and other neurological differences. Just because they might be new or unfamiliar to you, or just because you can't see the challenges someone is going through, does not mean they aren't there. But with greater awareness, acceptance, and support, we can all learn to not just survive, but thrive together. It also helps to share your thoughts and experiences, so please drop yours in the comments. Debbie and I both learn a lot from them and also love seeing how everyone in this community can learn from one another. Also, please share this video with anyone you think could benefit and subscribe for more content like this. As always, thanks for watching. So take a seat, because I'm about to blow your mind. This leaves the person completely hopeless. Oh.
Yes! Finally! Why this must change?
Why this must change?